All right, we're going to get started. Today is all about appointments, right? Appointments they're key. The more appointments we get, the more happy clients we gain. The more happy clients we gain, the more of a database we have on. So this is our third class of breakthrough. It sounds like you guys
third week of
breakthrough. Yep, excuse me. You guys had some conversations already in regards to database and lead follow-up, correct? For those previous classes, database and lead follow-up?
Yes.
Okay. So the appointment class is going to be, sorry, Steph.
Oh, you're good.
Okay.
Got it.
The appointment class is going to be broken up into two sections. So today and Wednesday, we're going to be covering appointments and how to execute a high-level appointment and make sure that you set yourself up for success. Oh, thank you. So the first piece is really going to be focused on more of the sell side with listings, and then Wednesday will be more buyer side head. So a couple things before we get started, just some housekeeping. Telemarketing and the TCPA compliance. You guys are all familiar with the TCPA compliant. That stands for Telecommunication Protection Act. So we need to scrub cold leads that we do not have a relationship with through the do not call list. So there are two do not call lists. There's the Pennsylvania State Do Not Call Registry, and then there's the National Do Not Call Registry. Both those resources are accessible to you. What's up? Good morning. Both those resources are accessible to you through explorekw.com. Does anybody have any questions about TCPA, why we do it, the purpose of it? I know they jump into a full or a breakdown because I know you guys have probably heard that sometimes. You're well. Good on TCPA. My personal viewpoint is if they're advertising their phone number, I don't scrub it against the do not call list. So for sale by owner that has their phone number out there and they've chosen to put that on the market, they're, in my opinion, advertising themselves. But any cold leads, expireds, canceled, just doing some neighborhood farming, you don't want to catch somebody off guard and have them have concern with you. So from there, we're going to jump into the content today. So the first slide we got, Breakthrough 120, Part 1, Session 3 appointments. So the goal in Breakthrough 120 is to have 10 real estate conversations 5 days a week for the next 120 days to set you up for 9 agreements. So let's break that down a little bit. 10 conversations a day, 5 days a week. So we're generating 50 contacts. The whole name of the game in real estate is the more conversations you have with people, the more people you converse with about purchasing or selling real estate, the higher the odds you are that you're going to be able to hit a home run, right? I always use the analogy, if you got to swing, you got to step up to the bat, step up to the plate to hit a home run. So I go through periods of this in my personal business where I'm laser focused. I make 40, 50 contacts a week. I'm setting appointments. I'm building my pipeline. And then I go through periods where I'm slow on this. And it's true. It tracks. You might not see it right away. You might not see the impact in your business when you stop talking to people as regularly as you should be, but it trails 2, 3, 5, 8 months down the road. A little personal, I just had a baby boy 2 months ago. Thank you. Obviously, leading into having a baby boy and coming out of, being a new dad, there was some slowdown in my business. So I'm seeing that right now. I'm seeing the lack of effort in December, January, February start to spill into my spring market. Now, with that being said, late spring, early summer is busy because the value of getting back into the conversations and having those conversations with people is key. But in 6 months, you should be able to sign 9 agreements. So we're going to break this down. We're going to have part 1 and part 2. Part 1, you guys are already covered database and lead follow-up. Today we're going to cover appointments. After appointments, it looks like you were going to open houses and then social media. And then part 2, there's going to be some lead generation accountability, conversation frame practice, proven lead generation strategies, and mindset and motivation. So session 3 appointments, a couple key points here. Follow a step-by-step guide to confidently lead a seller through a full listing appointment. We're going to work on building trust and guiding sellers to help them make an informed decision. And then maximizing your productivity by focusing on your most important activities during the first half. Does anybody have any questions on those key points here? Good. Am I going too fast?
Nope. No.
Okay, awesome. We got 59 slides. So progress report, that should be the next thing in your little packet there. This is a good tracker. So number of contacts added to your database, number of TCPA compliant calls that you've made, number of conversations that you've had. So contacts are, can anyone give me a full breakdown of what a complete contact is in Command? What are we looking for to be able to nurture that contact to future business?
Email address, phone number, birthday if possible.
Yep.
Any detailed notes, any good related tags.
Perfect. Yep. So the more information you can have on that contact, the better of an insight you're going to have on that lead to help guide them in the right direction. We always want first and last name. We always want a cell phone number. We always want an email address and a mailing address, a physical mailing address. If you have those 5 key pieces of information, anything else that gets tagged with that lead or that prospect's only going to help you build momentum with them to get them to transact. The general rule of thumb for database conversion, it depends on who you ask in terms of national coaches, but you should be seeing anywhere from 8 to 12% of your database transacting in a calendar year. So if you have, let's just use an easy number, if you have 100 contacts in your database, first name, last name, phone number, email, mailing address, and you've stayed in touch with those 100 people, that should generate 8 to 12 units of production. The goal is that you're in position 1, or at the very minimum position 2 when it comes to mind share. So when they go to transact, they can recall your name and refer you the business. That's key, right? You're not going to get all of them. And I beat myself up when I don't get all of them. I'm like, man, how did I miss out on that one? You see on Facebook, somebody went to high school with, buying a house, just saw it 2 days ago. I'm like, oh, we were kind of friends in high school, but I should have followed up with them. I should have stayed in front of them. So this is a really good tracker here. So when you're doing your real estate follow-up opportunities, pop in those leads for those follow-up opportunities. What are some of the challenges that may have arose during those conversations or prospecting efforts or even before it, and the takeaway and the ahas. So activity, consider your fears. Look at your fears from the previous session. Which of these no longer affect you the same way? Have new fears come up since the last session, and then classify your new fears about being a real estate agent as a rational or irrational fear. So did you guys have some time, and I apologize, I have not plugged into the previous classes, so I'm coming in a little, cold in terms of what you guys have already accomplished. Have you discussed some fears in your previous classes over the past few weeks? Yeah. Does anyone want to share maybe one or two of their big fears when it comes to real estate or even prospect setting appointments?
Then I said I was never going to sell anything.
Yeah, that's a fear. We all go through that. I still go through that today, 8 years in with 200 sales. I still go through that mindset from time to time, like, man, I just can't break. Am I going to sell something? You get so close, and then sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. So that's a valid fear. Has anyone overcame a fear from last week or the previous weeks? Was there a fear that was acknowledged?
I don't know if it necessarily constitutes a fear, but I'm doing more face-to-face than calling. I'm trying to network in any way that I can. I'm trying to be as creative, respectfully as creative as possible, to find different pipelines and spread everything out. So I'm finding myself more comfortable about actually talking about real estate, where before I was a little more fearful because, as I'm starting to do more open houses and a showing here or whatever, it's not high volume oriented.
For sure.
The confidence is growing. The fear of being a fake, you know what I mean? I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's kind of like just speeding over.
For sure.
I've been keeping.
Yeah.
Anything.
And it will happen more naturally. The more you have conversations about real estate, the more effort you're putting into yourself. You're sharpening your skills. You're honing in your skill sets. There are still times today where I say something, I'm like, I probably should have presented that in a different way. But take those mental notes, specifically for yourself as a professional, to better yourself and provide better service next time. But in addition, for specific leads as well. I also take detailed notes on these leads, on things that may have been fears from them, things that I might be fearful for them of, and then try to problem solve them and move forward. So I believe on this next slide, there's going to be, some examples of having fear. So fear of not having a track record, fear of not knowing how to answer every question about the sales process, and then fear of rejection when asking business. These are 3 big ones. I'm going to put a 4th big one on here because I think it's relevant for the majority of the people in the room. and it's something that I struggled with purely when my first year, 2 years in the business. I had such a fear of talking about real estate to people who I knew. And it's kind of funny because it's 70% of my business now is SOI, sphere of influence, past clients and referrals. I didn't want to come off as that pushy salesperson. I didn't want to come off as, hey, I'm newly licensed, how's life? We haven't spoken 5 years. What's new? By the way, if you know of anybody buying or selling real estate. So I really had to spend some time in those first 12 to 18 months of my professional growth on addressing that fear, recognizing it, and then how do I problem solve that? How do I get past that fear of asking for business from the people that are probably the most likely to give me the business? And we were just having this conversation before. There's two sides of the coin. There's the side of the coin that people want experienced real estate professionals, right? They want the person who's been in business for 10, 15 years. They want the person with a couple hundred sales that, sold 7 homes in the subject property neighborhood. That's a desire for some people. But on the opposite side of the coin, there's also people who want to help you get where you want. If you're hardworking, you're professional, you're patient, you're understanding, there are people out there that will be your biggest supporters for your business growth. Because they don't want to go to the agent that sells 50 homes a year that they can't get a hold of, that's on autopilot. They want that energy, they want that hustle, they want that passion for the business. So always bring yourself back to passion, because that helps me pull myself out of a slump when I feel like I'm in a slump. Is why am I doing this? I want to help people, right? I want to help people enrich their lives, be a part of their journey. Do we want to break down some of these fears and role play some of these? Does anybody have any questions on either 3 of those? You're welcome. Okay, let's pick the last one. Fear of rejection when asking for business. That's a big one, right? Because if we don't ask for the business, then the only way we're getting business is when somebody specifically has already determined that they want to transact with us, which will happen in your real estate career. But the goal is that we ask for business multiple times. There's multiple times where I've had, and these are going to be all out of order, sorry. There's multiple times where I've had to ask for the business 4 or 5 times on one phone call, one open house. So how do you finesse that? So rejection happens when the ask feels abrupt. Reframe the signature as an opening, not a close. Use micro agreements throughout the meeting so the final yes feels natural. So when you ask for the business, you want it to be smooth. You want it to be in conjunction with everything that you presented building up to. You can ask for the business too early, in my opinion. You need somebody, you're 5 minutes into it and you're asking them to transact with you. Well, they don't know your skill sets, they don't know your energy, they don't know, your passion for the career. You can also wait too long to ask for the business. You can drag it out to the point where it ends up becoming not as impactful. So timing of asking for the business is key. Number 2 I always, when I'm presenting, especially to a seller, the whole conversation is prepped and set up. So I'm getting them to buy into me before I even have to ask for the business. So what are some examples of that in action? So for everybody that's had me as a productivity coaching student, teacher, whatever, you've heard this before. So when I'm at a table and I'm getting ready to sign a listing agreement, if I don't already have a great feeling for it, I use it all the time anyways. My commitment to you, Tatiana, is to help you make the most amount of money, retaining the most equity from the sale of the home in the least amount of time, or within a timeline you identify to me, because sometimes least amount of time is not always the best for people. So I put that little back end piece in it with the least amount of inconvenience to you as the property owner. I truly believe if we can accomplish that together, we make a great team, and I'm excited to get started. And when you say that with a smile and a nod, and you're building that into your presentation, that's just one example. You're building those little confident builders and that nod and that smile into your presentation. By the time you bring out the listing paperwork, they either want to go to happy hour and get you out of their house and sign right away, or they don't want you to leave because they've had such a great experience with you. So just focus on the things that you can say while you're presenting to put yourself in a better position to execute a sale or a listing. Any questions on that?
No, but I have a question. My thing is when I'm going out like a listing appointment, they have multiple agents that are coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're competing, right?
Yes.
And sometimes you will know that you're competing, and sometimes you won't know that you're competing. So for me, anytime I always prepare every listing appointment, even if like I have one tomorrow, that's a past client that's getting ready, to sell their property. I know they're going with me, but I'm treating this listing appointment tomorrow like I'm competing against 5 agents. And I think when you set yourself up systematically in preparation that way, if you do get surprised later on down the road that you are competing, you gave it your 100% best effort. And in addition, I feel more confident when I feel like I'm giving my best presentation to someone. But what happens when you find out you're competing, right? So now you're in the position, you're sitting down at the table, they're like, hey, listen, this has been phenomenal. The value that you shared with us, the knowledge, the timeline, the process, we love your marketing, your commission structure is competitive amongst people we've already talked to. Okay, there's the first sign that I'm competing, but we'd like to take a few minutes, maybe sleep on it for the rest of the week, and we'll reach back out to you, by Friday. Okay, so I have 2 options here. I have the option of going offensive and working through some of their questions and some of their concerns to hopefully put me farther along down the road to ask for their business at that appointment. Doesn't always happen that way, but sometimes you can, when you hear that as a listing agent, potential listing agent for a listing, and we're focusing on listings today, I hear that and I'm like, okay, there's something there that maybe I haven't clarified for them or that they have a specific question about, which is why they're not choosing me. And ultimately, there is still that curiosity. Like when I was truck shopping, like I went to multiple dealerships, built relationships with multiple salespeople, because I like to take my time to make a decision. So there are still going to be those people out there that want to take their time to make the decision. But as for the business, build it up, and then when you are competing, I never let them not explore other options. I make sure I vocalize. I think it's very important that you speak with multiple real estate professionals and find the one that you have the strongest connection with, that you feel like is going to help you get the most amount of money, least amount of time, least amount of inconvenience. Are there any questions that I can help answer that we have not addressed already? Because the worst thing you could do if you find out you're competing is like, just cancel those appointments. Those agents don't have anything good to say. If you push too hard, you may push yourself out. And I'm going to give you one last tidbit of information on that that's really helpful. Again, for everybody that's CV Pro Coach, personality profiles is huge. If you've not studied personality profiles and how to speak with people based off their dominant personality profile, I always use the 4 simple ones: driver, analytical, and expressive. Your ability to build rapport with people and to know their likeliness of signing going into the appointment is heightened when you know who you're speaking and how to have a better conversation with them. So someone who's super analytical, that's dot the I's, cross the T's, numbers, facts, price per square foot, your sales history, the details on the marketing commission breakdown, they may need a catered listing presentation that's more detailed to that. But if you brought that same catered listing presentation to somebody that's over the top expressive and wants to be your best friend and spends an hour and a half showing you their home and 20 minutes at the kitchen table and wants to know when happy hour starts, like that's a whole different conversation. And the information necessarily doesn't change. It's just what you decide to share, the timing of when you decide to share it, and then how do I overcome, like if the expressive person shut me down and I'm feeling I'm not getting a listing contract, that approach is different than an analytical person. Someone who's analytical, I'd probably give them the time and let them explore their options. Somebody who's more expressive, it's like, yeah, we know somebody that, is a realtor, like our daughter's fiance is a realtor, then that you could potentially find a window to succeed. Did I answer your question? I know I kind of got.
You did, but the questions I have, I think I need to role play the strong agent.
Yeah.
That will give me strong reasons why they don't want to list with me.
Yeah.
Because I was always afraid of the listing appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And for years, all I worked with was buyers until I took both.
Yeah.
And when we were in there, we had to role play. And I didn't think I did that great of a job, but the other 3 people that were in our group doing the role playing thought I did a really great job. So
Good.
I don't know what I did, I can't remember even what I said.
Yeah.
But I know I used the, that board
Mm-hmm.
in my listing appointments.
Good. Yeah, role playing's key, right? The more you role play, it's going to strengthen
And
both
I need to
agents.
find someone to role play with.
I would speak with Lee at the front
Okay.
and see if you can plug into the training calendar if there's anything like group session wise that might be available. And then the more you come to class, I find that, you know, the ones that heavily attend training sessions, there's breakout sessions, there's group session opportunities, and then at times you will gravitate towards somebody in class that, you know, you're kind of on the same track, you're kind of scaling and growing the same way. Like we had so many pairings, you know, when I was pro coaching of like, oh yeah, there's Madison and Marcus, you know, because they just gravitated towards each other. Then you use each other, you know, to
Yes.
strengthen your skills.
Yes. I have another thing too. What do you do when you're hidden? I'm in a small area, which I'm
Mhm.
not planning. I don't know if I'm going to market that much because
Mhm.
it's further away than where I want to be. But there's a realtor up there. She really does a lot of troublemaker for people.
Mm-hmm.
And my son and daughter-in-law were looking for a house, and I just found this out. And I told the other instructor too, and I don't know what to do about it, if anything. But she told them that I was a bad realtor and that they shouldn't use me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've only ever had one transaction with her, and I didn't think it was bad. It's just that she wanted me to lower the price for my listing, and it was already listed at a really good price. Well, she called my broker behind my back, and I don't know what she told her. But the broker called me and said, just take her offer, which I didn't want to.
Mm.
Because actually the person was a friend of mine for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and he was also a little mentally challenged because he had gotten a disease that affected his brain.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, and I thought, well, I don't want him to lower the price, and she said, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what she said, but
Yeah, you're going to run into complex
how do you
scenarios
deal with that person? I
and
mean,
situations in real estate, and this is probably more of a follow-up conversation, you know, for the sake of coursework today to make sure we cover all the coursework. But you're going to run into so many different scenarios and situations in real estate that are either challenging, uncomfortable at times, things that need to be lined up in order to find success for the team. Ultimately, I try to remind myself when I'm in a position like that, I can't change the uncontrollable, right?
Right.
Certain things that are being said or done or, you know, energies, like I can just show up and be my 100% best and do my 100% best and prepare myself to be 100% best.
Mhm.
That way, when I give guidance and when I'm a part of this transaction, I'm the rock. I want to be the rock in the
Me too,
transaction.
that's what I want.
Yeah, I don't want to be the tumbleweed that's blowing through the wind that, you know, I can't find that person. Like, I want to be, when I build a relationship with somebody and when someone decides to hire me to help them sell or to represent them on a real estate transaction, I want them comfortable feeling like they come to me with everything and feel like they trust my guidance, they trust my patience, they trust my outlook and perspectives.
I know the reason she said that because it was even something else that was even, but it wasn't anything I did. It was what another realtor did to
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Made me look like I was not a good realtor. So I worked
Yeah.
for a brokerage that I didn't realize was crooked
yeah,
up there.
yeah.
And but I don't want to deal with them because I know too much. Because people keep coming to me.
Yeah.
They know that I'm a realtor, and they'll tell me, and they'll give me the lowdown about what all those realtors are doing up there.
Right.
And I said, well, did you go to the real estate commission? No, we didn't do anything about it. We just let them go. But people are losing money up there.
Well, it sounds like that market needs a great real estate agent that's going to help people not lose money.
And I want
So
Keller
take it as
Williams. I want Keller Williams to come up there.
Yeah, yeah,
Because they will just be blown away.
yeah. Where do you live? What area?
Mifflin Town.
Okay, yeah, that's a hike. Yeah. Okay, so how will you reframe your fears to empower rather than limit you? So this is a lead generation model. We're going to talk a little bit about prospecting and marketing. So you've got a couple things going on here. You've got on the left side, I reach out to leads, which is prospecting. So you're physically reaching out to leads, trying to generate new business, right? That's an effort of prospect. On the marketing side, I attract leads. So my marketing efforts are bringing in a funnel of leads to me.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
These are so slippery.
I'm gonna paper airplane it to you. So through the prospecting efforts, I reach out to leads, I connect with contacts regularly, and I agree to represent clients. So there's a flow that naturally happens here with prospecting and marketing. So you've got leads that come in, regardless of how they came in. They either came in from your prospecting efforts, from reaching out to them, or they came in from being attracted to you through your marketing efforts. From there, the goal is you want to turn those leads into contacts, right? You don't want leads coming in and having incomplete information because it makes it a lot harder for you to follow up with those leads moving forward. Full transparency, you guys may have already experienced this in your real estate career. More often than not, leads that come in, especially if it's not somebody that you genuinely have a relationship with and are super connected with, they're more warm to cold leads. They're typically, unless you're doing something like pay-per-click on Google, or even Zillow. Like Zillow will tell you, they self-report that 5% of their leads convert and actually buy homes. So if you pay for a zip code and get 20 leads in a month, you should expect one closing. So if we know that the likelihood of the leads that are coming in are more 3 to 12 months out, then it's really, really, really important that we capture all their correct contact information. So once we have a contact, then they can be entered into the database, because the database is going to be our tool to nurture those leads and help them move forward with purchasing or selling from. Eventually, after connecting with those contacts in those databases on a regular basis, and everybody goes on different speeds. Someone who's 30 to 60 days out is a much different speed than somebody who's 2 to 3 years out in terms of how regularly I'm contacting them. But the goal is that you've got the contact that's in the database, you're connecting with them regularly, and eventually you're going to start dropping out appointments. The whole name of the game in real estate is appointments. The more appointments you go on, whether you're a listing agent or a buyer's agent, the more contracts you're going to sign, the more homes you're going to sell. So on appointments, what do we do on appointments? I need to bring value to potential clients. It's important for me that when I set the appointment, I'm bringing that value to them. I'm not just setting the appointment to do a quick 30-minute, like, hey, tell me about what you're doing, take some basic information, and go on. And the goal is, if you bring value to those appointments, you should be able to get the agreement signed more regularly than not. So when you bring value to the appointments, you then go into buyer and seller listing agreements. So I agree to represent clients. Once you agree to represent clients, you have contracts signed. You go pending on your listing or the buy side, which then gets into closing, and I get paid. We all want to get paid, right? We all love what we do. I hope we all love what we do, but at the end of the day, this is not a nonprofit. We're business owners. We want to earn commission. We want to be able to do whatever we want to do in our lives. Any questions on that kind of flow chart there? Yes.
Okay, so I guess this is something I'm slightly confused on. So an appointment is so I basically did a showing, and that was the first time meeting. So
Okay.
technically be an appointment, or am I beyond the appointment stage at that point if I already have first round of paperwork signed?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So appointments on the buy side typically go one of two ways. They either go straight to a showing, where you establish your correct paperwork up front, then you just go meet them at the property and you go show them. And then there's also an appointment for the buy side, which leads into a buyer consultation. So what I have found is, depending on the source of the lead that comes in and how qualified they are, I'm going to use the LP MAMA acronym to go through, okay, this is a buyer lead. Let's talk about location, where they want to be. Let's talk about their price point and monthly payment, their comfort with that. Why are they making the move? Their motivation, agent, mortgage, appointment. So as I'm going through that LP MAMA acronym for a new lead, I'm trying to determine two things. So you've got a lead up here. Yay, I'm a happy person. And you've got two buckets down here. And this bucket is a showing. Excuse my sloppy handwriting. And I'm just going to put buyer consultation, BC. So you've got all these leads up here that are starting to come in. Where 80% of real estate agents fail is they do not have the proper screening of the lead when the lead comes in a timely manner, asking the right questions through using the acronym LP MAMA. And these leads end up missing both buckets. They just fall down land on the ground and get scooped up by a mega agent who's picking them up or somebody that they got referred to. The goal is that when these leads come in and the phone rings, you want to send them to one of two spots. This is personal preference. Everybody does it a different way. The only time I'm sending someone to a showing when it's a new lead. So if I have a past client reach out to me who referred me their neighbor who's getting ready to sell and buy. Well, if they're already pre-approved, know what they want, ready to go, it's in a specific neighborhood, there's a house on the market that fits their criteria in that specific neighborhood, and I had great feeling with them in the conversation, I may not go the route of doing a buyer consultation first. Well, you're motivated, you're qualified, you're ready to go, you found a home and you're prime neighbor. Let's go. Let's meet at the showing. And in that case,
Well, and the people that just reached out, I got in contact with them because they wanted to see a specific property.
right.
So that's, you know what I mean, I just kind of had paperwork lined up. But
Yeah.
I knew the first lady was going to work out, so
Yeah.
I didn't want to feel her pressured into a long-term
Yeah.
commitment, because I could still, so I just made it a week.
Gotcha.
So she really wanted to just feel this neighborhood, it's for her dad, he's 86, lives 6 hours away, you know. It wasn't gonna work out, but it was a good like starting point for them to
For
kind
sure.
of figure out what they want.
Yeah. And then from there you
And then I still have contact, you know, lead to work with.
Right, right. And the goal was that you eventually position yourself to be their exclusive agent
Yeah.
for 6 months. You know, okay, you know, this experience has been so great, well, let's move that ball down the road a little bit. But there's no right or wrong way to do it. You could go to either showings or buyer consultations with qualifying leads, but make sure you send them to go. Now, if somebody is like a cold lead that walks into an open house and they're like, hey, we're thinking about buying our first home, you start having conversations with them, they're more than likely, if they're not pre-approved and they're buying their first home, they're more than likely at least 3 months out. So at that point, that's a great opportunity to capture their, build the rapport, show your value, capture their information, then set them up on a buyer consultation. But again, no right or wrong way to do it. At the end of the day, we want appointments, right? So whatever works best for you guys to gain the most appointments, to sell the most amount of homes, that works for me.
Would you mind repeating what the LP Mama, like what does that stand for?
Yep. So location. So is there a specific school district, neighborhood, or mileage radius around work they want to stay? Price. So do they have a feel for what their purchasing power is? I use monthly payment over sale price because you will find that sale price in one area changes in terms of monthly payment from another area. A $400,000 condo in Oakmont behind the Hershey Med Center, well, that might have high taxes. That might have a $300 condo a month fee. Where the $400,000 house in Cumberland Valley School District, one of the lowest tax millage rates in central PA, that's not in an HOA, that payment could be $500 a month less than the condo. So when I talk about price, I talk about, do we have a feel for what our maximum all-in comfort for mortgage payment is? And a lot of people go back to rent. They're like, well, we pay $2,000 on rent. We can really push it up to $2,500. Okay, great. Now we know it can work. They're comfortable with $2,500. What does that translate into sale price-wise? The M is motivation. So why LP Mama, LPM? Motivation. Why are they making the move? What's the driving factor for them to make the move? And that's important to understand and identify up front, because when times get tough, you lean on their motivation. When they feel like they want to wave the white flag and quit because they've been on the market for 3 months and they looked at 10 homes and wrote 3 offers and got beat out for all 3 offers, what's the first thing I come back to? Typically their motivation and why they've even decided to put themselves in the market. The A, the first A, is going to be agent, right? So are they speaking with another agent? So it's good you don't flat out say, hey, are you speaking to other real estate agents? There's a way to finesse that conversation. Have you discussed your homeownership journey with any other real estate professionals? And then you could typically feel out from them, oh no, we you know, you were referred to us, we have a lot of faith in, you know, so-and-so that referred us to you. This is all new to us. So you're going to be able to feel out in that A whether they've got a real estate connection. M is mortgage. So at this point, you can have the conversation with them of, have they spoken to somebody about getting pre-approved? If they haven't, it's good to have recommendations for lender pre-approval. Early in my real estate career, I was more receptive to take a lead that wasn't approved in terms of like showing a home. Now, a lot's changed with, you know, the 2024 lawsuit and document prep and all that stuff. I was hungry. I wanted any lead I can get, and you know, I was ready to go. And we'll figure out the approval later. I will say, the further you get into your business and the more business you start to do, it's really important to find out up front whether they're approved or not, because you don't want to be spending time out showing homes for something that they can't even purchase. You're going to get kickback from that from time to time. You're going to have buyers on phone calls, through text message and email, at an open house, say, well, you know, I don't want to get my credit pulled yet. Let's just go look. That to me is a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't want to do the thing I need to do to be able to actually do what I need to do. So let's talk through that concern. Let's figure out where you're at with that concern and what that concern really is, and put you on a roadmap to success to get you to become a buyer. So it's always problem solving, right? And you're going to find that with real estate a lot is the great real estate professionals who close 2, 3, 4 homes a month, they're consistently problem solving. They're consistently helping to guide people onto the correct path. So finding out whether they're qualified or not is important, and if they don't have, you know, a mortgage connection, then refer them to somebody that can help them look at their stuff and see if they can get approved. Then the last A is appointment. So this is where we're trying to lock in the appointment. So we're having this conversation, we go through location, price, motivation, agent, mortgage. Now let's set the appointment. And that appointment for buyers is gonna more than likely be a showing or a buyer consultation.
Well, one of the things they tell me about not wanting their credit pulled is because it's going to affect their credit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I've been told by a lender that if you're shopping for a house, like, it doesn't affect your credit, that maybe 5 points or something like
Yeah.
that. It doesn't affect your credit much.
Yeah, it's a minor ding.
Yeah.
And if you ultimately end up utilizing a person who pulled your credit, they're not gonna ding you in terms of, you know, for the credit pull that they're doing. There's also something called like cluster polling, where like if you're a new buyer and you're thinking about getting a mortgage and maybe 3 different banks, mortgage companies, credit unions pull your credit because you're shopping options. Typically, if that's condensed in a small window of time and it's for the same purpose, I've seen on credit report, it doesn't hit you like 7 points, 7 points, 7 points.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of considered like one pull for one primary purpose. Now, if the buyer was getting a new car loan, opening 3 credit cards, applying for a mortgage, and there's 3, 4 pulls from different avenues, that's where it starts to become risk. You know, oh, something's up here. They're reaching for credit everywhere. But ultimately, you know, our job is to get them in front of the mortgage lender and let them kind of do their thing. So with appointments, let's clarify what an appointment is. An appointment is a scheduled meeting where a real estate agent meets with potential buyers and or sellers. See the and or? Those are some of the best appointments. When you've got a buyer who's also a seller, you meet with somebody, maybe you sold them, you know, their home 5 years ago, they're outgrowing it, they're gonna sell and buy. So just know before you go into the appointment what type of lead you're walking into. Is this just a buyer appointment? Is this just a seller appointment? Is there a chance they're gonna sell and buy? Because I always over prepare, then scale back at the appointment based off the circumstances that are presented to me and the energy that I'm getting in the conversation, you know, receiving with that lead. The goal of the agent during the appointment is to build trust and guide the buyer or seller towards a decision. The goal of sellers is to net the most amount of money with the fewest amount of hassles in the least amount of time. The goal of buyers is to find the right property that meets their timing needs and get it at the best price with the fewest hassles. So there's a little difference in terms of representing sellers and representing buyers when it comes to the purpose of the appointment. Is there any questions on that slide that I can help clarify? Doing all right? How are we doing on time?
It's 11:43, like
Okay.
15 minutes break.
Yep, cool. I was going to suggest a break. Have you guys been breaking at
We
noon for
usually
like 5
break at
minutes?
an hour, sorry.
Okay.
I wasn't sure. Yeah, you usually at
Break for an hour or break in an
No,
hour?
at an hour.
At an hour.
Like 5 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Awesome.
Back.
My day got longer.
Sorry. I didn't want to.
No, that's good.
No, I'm out.
That's good enough. Yep. Okay, so the consultative presentation. So there's presenting and there's consulting, right? They're 2 different things, but they're both very important to find success on appointments. So let's kind of jump into the definition of the 2 and talk about how you can piece those 2 together to have higher level appointments. I keep forgetting I'm on Zoom, so hello Zoom. Same. So with presenting is one way and has the goal of delivering information. When somebody is presenting, they have information that they're trying to deliver. Consulting is a two-way conversation. It has the goal of identifying and solving problems. Real estate professionals do both and use sales skills to tie it all together to help clients make their best decisions. One thing that I was very aware of early in my real estate career and very conscious of and tried to continue to, and to this day I still work on it, is how do I make this happen without it sounding abrupt, without it sounding clunky, without it sounding kind of just like scripted. So you're gonna find different things and different entry points into conversations. You're gonna read body language, which really helps me on an appointment. Like I can tell if somebody's in and excited, and I can tell when somebody's kind of going through the motion. And I can pull that someone who's going through the motion up to the point now where they're excited and I'm happy to work with them and they're happy to work with me. Or it's not the end of the world to drive those people. You're gonna have people that set appointments with you that may not be actually ready to go. And the goal is you figure it out sooner rather than later. You don't wanna have 5 people in your database, oh yeah, we're gonna buy a home, that end up being, that in reality, if they were properly screened, if you had the proper conversations, and you set them on the right path, that realistically were 18 to 24 months out, and you always thought they were 3 months away. That's a tough journey because you're always waiting for that next pending, right? Thinking you've got these 5 buyers. Hey, I've got these 5 people I'm showing homes to, or maybe I've got 5 people signed and only 3 are approved. And I'm showing the 3, the 2 are on the back burner. I've got a nice little end of spring lined up. But if the 3 who are approved lack motivation, they're qualified, but maybe they're not motivated. If I didn't get to the root of that in the beginning, I may be setting myself up for false, success. Cool. We're going to move on to the next slide. The flow of the appointment. So let's talk about what an appointment looks like. So step 1, this all happens before the consultation. Whether it's a buyer consultation, whether it's a listing appointment. Well, I think this is all set for a listing. So we're going to focus on listings right now. So I'm meeting with a potential seller. I'm going to be doing a lot of this today in preparation of my appointment tomorrow, my listing appointment. So step 1 before the consultation, prepare for the appointment. Arrive at the home and tour the home, right? That's all kind of like before you get into the conversation pieces. So preparing for the appointment's done so many different ways. It's like making a margarita. You can make a margarita 30 different ways and they all taste pretty good, right? For the most part. So there's some finesse and there's some personality, especially when it comes to being a great listing agent, that Steph's presentation for a listing appointment may be very similar to mine, but it also may be different in a lot of ways. And that's through the experience you gain, that's through the conversation pieces that you create, and it's through the marketing material that you put together for them. Always, try to arrive, and I think this is on the next slide, but always try to arrive at the home 5 to 10 minutes early. Being a late realtor, when you're going on a listing appointment, it's your first impression. And, I'm a big believer in sometimes it's unfair, but your first impression is your first impression. And how you arrive, your timeliness, your punctuality, your dress, how you present yourself. Are you getting out of the car and 30 Taco Bell bags are falling in their driveway?
Yeah.
It's how you present yourself, right? So arrive 5 to 10 minutes early. Make sure you're on time. And then this is a great recommendation. Keller Williams obviously views this the same way I do. I like to tour the property before I get into my presentation. Before I start presenting, and before I start consulting to gain a listing, I want to see the home that I'm working with first, for 2 reasons. I want to walk through the property to know what are some of the key selling points of the property, and what are some of the key concerns or deficiencies that I may be experiencing if I'm given the opportunity to gain this listing. But what I'm really doing, I'm walking through the home, touring the property before I sit down at the kitchen table and go over my listing presentation. I'm trying to figure out the personality profile of that homeowner. And I usually have a pretty good feel before I go to the appointment. Are these people driver, dominant? They're short, to the point, want to be in charge, dominate the conversation. They want facts, but they want them quick and they want to make a decision quick. Are they expressive? Are they touring you through the home, talking about every family vacation, every photo in the home, the man cave with the sports stuff? You know, are they more feel oriented than data oriented? Are they amiable? Are they maybe a little bit more reserved? Are they concerned about their decisions and how that may affect other people and why they're doing what they're doing? Or are they analytical? Or are they the people that are engineers, architects, you know, sometimes teachers, you know? Do they want detailed information that they can then take time to digest to make an informed decision? I usually have a good feel for that before the listing appointment, but the reason you tour the home is because by the time you're done touring the home, you should know a dominant personality profile and a subdominant personality profile for both people. Because a lot of times I go into a listing appointment where it's two people selling a property and their personality profiles are completely different. So if I just read one person and catered all my conversation to that one person, then I may be leaving that other seller out. What I will say with that though is identify who's the decision maker. There's always a decision maker in every dynamic when it comes to selling a property. And you will typically find who that decision maker is through your preliminary lead up to it. I'm gonna present more to the decision maker, but be aware of the second personality profile to make sure that the times when we are conversing, that everybody's a part of the same team and we all feel understood and accepted. So I think that's a really key point there. So step 2, during the consultation, we're gonna do a couple different things here. There's a lot that goes on during a listing presentation. We're gonna assess the seller's goals and needs. What's important to them? What are true needs that, like, hey, if we don't get X, Y, and Z, or if we don't hit this specific date because, you know, we got to enroll our kids to the new school district, and Chris, I know we called you late, it's mid-July, I know we got to get this thing sold in 30 days, but hey, listen, if we are on the market in 2 weeks and don't have a closing date around Labor Day, we're gonna have to take it off the market and try again next year. That's a true need, right? So we want to identify the seller's goals, what they're looking to achieve from the listing consultation, and what their specific needs are. Sometimes goals and needs are similar, right? Share your value proposition. So every one of us should have a value proposition when it comes to being a great listing agent and being a great real estate professional. What do I bring to the table that may be different from another real estate professional in the market? Be confident in it. Know it, understand it, present it well, and then referring back to your big why, which I think I saw somewhere in one of these slides when I was prepping for this class. Knowing why you're doing what you're doing helps, right? But value proposition is tricky for me. I've always struggled with this, and I'm getting better with like being super crystal clear, confident why I'm important in someone's real estate journey. But I remember the first 5 years in real estate, value prop's tough because a lot of the things you want to say that you actually believe are true about yourself, communication, I care, I'm timely. Well, you will find that these things are very common that other real estate professionals also believe and are and do. It's not that you should ignore them. It's not that you should, not call any attention to it or be those things. But let's think about value prop after this class as a little different. Look at it as in like, what is different and unique about me that sets me apart that some other real estate professional may not have? And that could be from marketing, that could be from desire for a certain area. Like you might find out that like, hey, listen, this is the neighborhood I want to farm, and I'm going to do everything for this neighborhood. Beckers do this, pretty well. They farm specific neighborhoods. They hold community events. They do, client appreciation parties where like that separates himself among some of the competition. The Palmyra, summer carnival, like people know who David and Karen are in Palmyra and in Hershey and in, the surrounding area because they found a niche that they can execute, that they're confident and passionate about, and they're executing at a high level, which is part of their value proposition. You're going to review the selling process. That's pretty important, right? Mm-hmm. So when we're having a conversation about selling the home, we have to walk them through every step of selling a home and what that looks like. I do this for two reasons. A, to present information, and B, to consult with them and to see if they had a good understanding of what it takes to get their home ready to be marketed. And then there's going to be needs that need to occur from time to time in the process of getting the home ready to go to market that you can help them through. The other thing too is when you're reviewing the selling process, this is a great time to have back and forth conversation about the selling process and build trust and get them to buy into you. Discuss your marketing strategy. Who wants to give me some examples of marketing?
Direct mailers around your league.
Yep. Did I hear social media, direct mailers?
Yep.
Yep. What else can we do to market a property?
MLS is important. That's
Sure
a big
is.
one.
It's a huge marketing tool.
Mhm.
Yep.
Sign in the yard.
Sign in the yard, professional photos. Maybe we have staging done if it's an appropriate home that would need staging. Maybe it's as simple as, hey, it's the end of April and I can tell you haven't gotten your yard cut. Like, it's not necessarily a marketing tool that we do, but like your home's gonna market a lot better with a fresh cut and mulch than it's, than it looks right now. So just think about different things you could do to market yourself and what your marketing strategy looks like. Do we do coming soon? Do we go straight to active? What's the energy for the two look like, and what are your, pros and cons of both options? Open houses, another great one for marketing. Make sure you're crystal clear on the significance of hosting open houses, and I'm always in belief that, like, if I'm hired as a listing agent, I'm going to do everything possible I know to market your home and to find you a buyer for the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of inconvenience to you until you tell me to stop. So there are times when I'm covering the marketing side of my listing presentation where I can sense, because I've already built that rapport with them on the phone, through the qualification, through the walkthrough of the home, through their personality profile, I can sense that they want no piece of an open house when I put it out there. Some people love them, and hey, listen, 10% of the homes that are sold from open houses. Great, let's take that as an opportunity and hope we find a buyer. There are some people who are like, Chris, we know our home's gonna sell. It's in a great neighborhood. We want qualified and approved buyers in here. We don't need neighbor Larry down the road peeking at our house. So I'm not gonna draw a line in the sand and say, well, I'm not taking your listing because you don't want to do an open house. Would I prefer to do an open house to maybe find them a buyer and get spin-off business for myself? Yes. But you're going to work with people based off your comfort and what their desires are. Explain your pricing strategy. This is where it starts, the heat gets turned up a little bit, right? When you're in the moment, you're on a listing presentation and everything's going smoothly. You're punctual, you're on time, you're dressed for success, you're vibing with the sellers, you get a great walkthrough, you're building up to who you are, who KW is, you're looking at, the process, you're talking about marketing strategy, you're getting really into the thick of the listing appointment now, and now what are some of the things sellers want to know on a listing presentation?
How much they can make.
Yes, that's a big one. So, I'm just going to put dollar sign. How much money are they going to make, right? What are they going to list for? It doesn't look like an 8.
Put another line.
All right. I'll do it better. I'll focus. Money.
There you go.
There we go.
Good job.
So how much money are they going to make, or what are we going to sell for? Because list price is a direct correlation to what their net equity is more than likely going to be. They
want to see a closing cost information.
They do, yeah, and we're going to talk about that later in today. We're going to talk about a seller net proceeds sheet, because sometimes sellers need that guidance and that information on what it's actually going to cost. What are they going to net? Okay, my home sells for $400, but I got a $220 mortgage payoff. I've got 6% commission of realtors. I got 1% transfer tax. I got broker transaction fee, deed prep, tax certs, flood cert. I got reimbursement of taxes coming back to me. What does that all look like for the seller? And are we aligned with what they need to move forward? So sellers want to know list price, right? And they want to know how you came to list price. So who has an idea of when you're going through the process and you're at this point where you're talking about pricing, what are some of the tools that we utilize to determine pricing for a seller? CMA, yeah. Like it. And clarify, Sharia, CMA.
And marketing analysis.
Yep, certified market analysis. So that's going to show you closed comps, price per square foot. You're going to have line-by-line adjustments. Now, I forget who I was chatting with about the CMA. Jade?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. So, You're gonna find for pricing, when you go into a listing appointment, you're pricing a home, there's two ways to price a property. You either go into the property and you utilize a full-blown market analysis. You've got 3 or 4 of the most similar comps stacked up side by side in the subject property. You're making line-by-line adjustments on all the comps, and it's spitting out an adjusted amount for the comps, and then you average it all together and give a range. For me, I find that that strategy works really well for analytical people when I go into a listing appointment, to have that tool prepared. So when they go analytical on me, boom, I'm in analytical mode. But 70% of the time, if not more, I do not do a full-blown CMA for listings I take. Really?
So what do you do? So what do you put in
I
it?
just smile and say, do you want to hire me? No.
Yeah, I know.
I'm kidding.
I have a question.
Yes, this is great. I love this. Yeah.
When you present,
Yeah.
do you present price per square foot?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Or are you presenting overall? I present price per square foot.
Yeah.
I think you taught me that.
I did. Yeah.
And that's the only thing that makes sense to me now.
Yeah.
I can't imagine just doing a bulk.
Right.
Oh, I think you're gonna be worth it.
Right, and to that credit too, it's like, if you're not choosing the right comparable sales, a rancher price per square foot's always gonna be higher than a bottom,
Correct.
or higher than a two-story. Rancher price per square foot are the largest price per square foot. They cost more to build, more foundation, more siding, more roofing. So using a $400,000 rancher comp in Hershey schools against what you think is going to be a $375 detached Cape Cod, there might be a little bit of a value. Andrew, yep.
Correct. Why do you use a price?
So
Interesting.
I use price. So I'm going to back up just a tad. So when I do a pricing recommendation, I always give a range. I don't believe it's fair as a professional real estate agent to get. We're not certified appraisers. We do not hold appraisal licenses. And honestly, if I pick one property down the road and get 3 different appraisers to go out there and appraise the home, you're more than likely going to get 3 different numbers on 3 different appraisal reports.
Yes.
So I think it's really important to change your mindset when it comes to doing a listing presentation as an opportunity to share information, and I believe we're going to fall somewhere in between here. And sometimes how I gather that number, so if my gut tells me it's a $400,000 listing, and I do research, and I pick 4 of the most similar comps that I've closed in the last 6 months in the subject property school district, and I'm seeing that all 4 comps are closing between 180 and 200 a square foot. Well, there's going to be outliers. There's going to be some that close for 270 a square foot, and there's going to be maybe one that closes for 130 a square foot. Well, let's look at those ones, and let's see how much more improved and better is that listing compared to the one I'm going on. Okay, maybe they got an extra $40 a square foot because it just had a massive renovation. It's got a gourmet kitchen with Viking appliances, and they redid their basement and they did X, Y, and Z. Maybe the one for 130 a square foot, was barely livable. But I want to try to get a window of what the closing comps are settling for, price per square foot, because that's going to help me then use that calculation into the subject property square footage to determine what I think is going to be a baseline and a ceiling number for the property. The other reason why price per square foot is important is because appraisers use it. Appraisers look at style of home, beds, baths, square footage. One of the biggest adjustments on an appraisal report is the actual square footage adjustment. That's one of the biggest adjustments. So, Andrew, I use price per square foot because it gives me talking point. It gives me a starting point with somebody, and it allows me to, if I can have something in my back pocket where if I feel like, okay, if it's a townhome and every single townhome that's sold is between 250 and 270, and I walk into this townhome and they want 310, and I can pull data of like, hey, here they're all closing within $5 a square foot of each other. There are times where price per square foot isn't as significant, depending on the style of home and the activity around it. But I do cover, when I go in, and I want to clarify, I don't do a full-blown CMA for my listing presentations. I do a mini CMA. I don't come with no data prepared. There's two reasons why I do this. A, I believe that when you do a full-blown CMA, you should have seen the home. You probably should have walked through it. You probably should have took notes on
That
condition.
makes sense.
Doesn't it, right?
Yeah.
So for me as a listing agent that gets a call to go on a listing appointment, how confident am I that I'm actually doing the CMA correctly based off what I'm about to walk into? Now, if you've been to the home, say it's a neighbor and you've been in their house 50 times and you know what you're walking into, or if you've had a really, 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 really good conversation on the phone leading up to the listing appointment, you checked all your boxes. Any major changes you've made since you've purchased the property last? Have you finished the basement? Have you added a sunroom? Then maybe you can lead heavier with the CMA. But for me, when I go into a home and I get an opportunity to list a property, I don't know some of these things that they've done with the property. But I don't want to come with nothing, right? My job is to get them to sign a listing contract at that listing appointment. So what do I bring? I bring, outside of all the build up for like marketing and who I am and all the full listing presentation, when it comes to pricing, I'm going to bring some information that's going to help me deliver some information to the seller to help them make an educated decision on where they want to price their home at. I look at what's on the market currently, what is active in their school district, specifically in their neighborhood, that they may be competing against. And I should clarify, this is not a comp. A comp is not a comp until it's a settled and closed comp. So there should be some weight in this, but at the end of the day, I could live in a $200,000 home and my neighbor could put their home on for $400. It's never going to sell for $400, so it's not a comp. You can put any number on a listing, but it is good to know what the market is, getting for similar homes. And it helps me too, because if there's townhouses are an easy example. If there's 3 townhouses in Deer Run for sale and I'm on a Deer Run listing appointment, wouldn't it be good for the sellers to know what those other 3 townhomes are asking for? Because we either want to be, if we're the highest one, we have to be able to justify the fact that why we are the highest one to choose from. If we're the lowest one, well then we're the lowest one for a reason, and we're probably going to get more foot traffic. So I like to pull what's active in the subject property neighborhood. If there's nothing active in the subject property neighborhood, I expand to the school district, similar style. Hey, a buyer who is looking for a $300,000 rancher has these other options to choose from. Because it just kind of helps that conversation get started. Before you start hitting them with closed comps and, well, this one closed for $290, but it didn't have this and that. Build your way into that conversation. What I have found that active homes for sale is a great way to start that pricing conversation with people. So I bring the actives, I then bring the pendings, specifically in that subject property school district. So, and in their neighborhood. So if it's a townhouse neighborhood and there's 2 pending, I want to know what they're pending at. How long did they take to go pending? What was their original list price? Did they drop? What were their days on market? When does it settle? I like to have that information with sellers because before I even get into closed comps and pricing recommendations, when I'm looking at pendings that have a downward arrow, meaning they drop price to get it to pen, and it's been on the market for 90 days, I'm already planting the seed with the seller before I even talk about comps and what I think their home is worth at. And this is an example of a home that may have been overpriced or priced more aggressively on the market. And after sitting on the market for 90 days, they did go pending, but it does appear that it's pending below their original list price was. You're just building in that comfort with them until you start hitting them with the closed comps. So then I find comps, right? I'm finding 5 or 6, maybe upwards of 10 if it's a high traffic area. And I'm printing out the thumbnail version of all those comps, which has 1 photo, beds, bath, square footage, acreage, days on market, price point, close date. And I'm bringing photos for all those closed comps. I don't need to bring...
They can all be in the CMA. That can all be in the CMA.
Yep, exactly. Yep. And then what you will find is, okay, you're going to have a range. You're going to have a low-end sale price number. You're going to have a high-end sale price number. You're going to have a low-end price per square foot, a high-end price per square foot. You're going to talk about how your home's different from those comps. And depending on the personality profile, if it's executed professionally and well, and you really comb through a lot of that stuff, you're going to naturally, as the conversation continues, start to narrow in and narrow in and narrow in your pricing based off what's being sold that another buyer can buy, what's currently pending, and the 5 to 12 comps that you've already had. The goal is that you get them to a point where they can agree that they're falling somewhere between 250 and 280. That's my primary goal in a pricing. And again, I might have a different approach from somebody else. So I might come in and say, oh, it's 290 all day. That's what we should list for. I like to give people the option. So I never want to sell something for less than what they could have gotten. And it's really hard in today's market to do that, right? It's pretty hard to underprice a home. Really hard. If you underprice a home, the public will react. That home will get stimulated. You'll get 20, 30 showings, and it will sell for above what you underpriced it. It is easy to overprice a home. You can look at it and say, okay, well, this was 6 months ago, and they were all closing for 290, and 6 months of appreciation, and it's a better time of the year. There's more people looking because it's match season at the Hershey Med Center. We're going to go for 320. Well, if the highest comp in the neighborhood is ever sold for 290 and you're going at 320, we better have $30,000 of awesome stuff in that house, or improvements in terms of square footage, finished basements, or we might have overshot it. So all I'm doing in my pricing is trying to get them to get to a point where they can agree on a window of a pricing recommendation. Once we get to that point, they now trust. They've gained some trust with me. I've educated them on Keller Williams, myself, my marketing. We've gotten into the conversation about pricing. We've now narrowed down that they're going to be somewhere between 250 and 280 based off of actives, pendings, closed, conditions, price per square foot, sale price ranges, things they've done to their home. So now we have a conversation about what type of success do they want to find. And for me, I'm here to help you be successful. Successful can look different ways for different people. Success isn't a blanket thing for each property. So if you want this gone quick, if you want a bidding war and you want it under contract in 3 days, and you don't want to have to worry about anything when it comes to making updates, or you want an offer with little contingencies, we probably shouldn't be on the high end of the pricing recommendation, because we're setting ourselves up to sit and drop or have to make improvements or accept an offer that may not be as clean. I usually go mid to low pricing recommendation wise. So mid is usually true value. When I make a recommendation, it's 280 to 3. The home's usually spot on at 290. So let's go in at 290 and hope that we get you a bidding war up over 3 and everybody's happy. Or if there's some concerns, like if the house really needs painted, it needs flooring, the kitchen's dated, okay, it's 280 to 3, maybe we should go in at 279.9 and hope that buyers see value in that. But there's a lot of different ways you're going to be able to finesse it. There's a lot of different ways you're going to come up with your pricing. What have you guys, have you spent some time recently on CMAs and with Sarah? Where are you at in terms of like, who confidently can price a home for sale if they got a call right now to go on a listing appointment?
I mean,
Good.
I have done it.
Okay. Well, and the reason I ask that is because there's also different ways to do a CMA. There's Bright MLS, there's RPR, there's personality. So I think that it was something I struggled with early in my career, is like, I just can't seem to get a grasp on this CMA. Why doesn't it look like what I want it to look like, or some of the other great agents in my office 8 years ago? Remind yourself that a CMA it doesn't have to look the same for everybody. What's more important about a CMA is that you understand the CMA that you prepared.
Yeah, I struggle with that. I do.
That you understand the CMA you prepared, and that you're confident to share information about the seller's home and their market and their pricing recommendation to the seller. If that means it's 20 pages with valuable information and you're done in 10 minutes, but you're prepared, you're excited, and you're confident, I'd rather that than a 50-page Bright MLS CMA that you spent a week stressing over, that you're going to fumble your way through it, and you would have never had a chance to even get the listing to begin with. So sometimes scale it to your personality, scale it to your comfort, scale it to something that you can rehearse and role play with somebody. And then you will get the benefit and the pleasure of being able to add to it as time goes on. And I think that's worked really well for me. How are we doing on time? Okay, let's take a minute. 12:20, I'll see you guys back. I'm gonna fly through the last slides.
Just like, oh,
Sarah has mine broken up into 2 sessions. So like, yeah. But I have a full packet for Wednesday too. Like this is half of the half already. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, this
Yeah.
is, there's a lot of, they go into a lot of detail in the CMA,
Yep.
that kind of stuff.
Yes, Sarah Kowalski, so I can get a hold of Sarah. Because I don't have bar right now, so I'm waiting for those. I'm trying to get appointments for other agents.
I'm currently trying to pull up CMA.
Sometimes I like to check.
So she's gonna help me. She wants leads, appointments. And she's a leads, and I know that it is. And agents to call and see.
Just calls. And then
So
they make-
the main thing is gonna be constant, you're right, it doesn't, it's pricing, like just as he's completely right, it's like it's another, it's just one of those other things, and that's the thing too, whenever, and I defer to Chris. Chris is so, way more house than I do. He's somebody that I look at and I bounce questions off, like Aurora and Hershey, we'll have
Oh, yeah.
conversations. And it's funny how he's talking about role play, because he's my unofficial role play partner,
Nuts.
and I'm like, where you been, bruh?
Yeah,
So-
do that, do that.
But it's for me. What's on it? I wanna.
I've heard it.
I see some like comments. Like I'll go back. I think you're off, especially with somebody out there. Something.
Yeah.
I know this is gonna sell. And I've never been wrong. Now I've had houses sit, but that's because I, being a weak realtor, broke.
Want to take a break?
Like,
Yeah,
5-minute break. You're winning or
There's
late. Nothing,
somebody
man.
out there who just was talking so loud and just disrupting the whole class. What?
Was it you this time?
But no, sometimes I think it's good to, when you find comps that you believe in, and you're like,
I've fought for it.
have some confidence in your,
Yeah.
no, I'm confident in my comps, and I know that this should be this way. I'm asking you to do this. Probably won't, but it never hurts to say something. You know what I mean? So it's cool with it. Okay.
Yep, that's it.
Sometimes it makes it hard. Where I think it's easier to do that kind of thing if you're in an area that has high turnover. Like if it's ranchers, and it's a bunch of ranchers in Hershey on a Reba, I think that makes it a little bit easier. Or if it's like townhouses,
Yeah.
where it's high turnover.
Yeah, if you don't have 18 months worth, if you haven't sold anything in 18 months, I mean,
But
no call.
right, but his main point is, and one of the things that I've seen, like momentum, it's not it's not a knock on anybody. But there's such a focus on what does my presentation look like versus do I understand their presentation? And the presentation that you don't understand is next to worthless.
It is absolutely worthless.
Like,
It's absolutely worthless, yes. I agree.
um,
You have to understand the, right?
Like
I'm not selling, I tell my students, the house is secondary to everything that we do. It's the relationship that matters. And it's being able to
I'm irritated because I went, I did the video to announce it.
if I
That's
make-
what tells me, I don't give a shit if I have a pretty folder you have a meeting, if I
Instagram,
can't look at you and have a
Facebook,
conversation,
pages,
don't-
then we have
TikTok,
nothing.
The very
And I
first time
did
I go out,
knocking. I literally found flyers to everyone that was outside.
and I wanna,
And I had 5 guesses from people that took the flyers, took my car. And then my shoulders went up the dark. So I these people that have
Friday
so excited.
But
Nobody should.
no, that's okay. Yeah, so my summer is out of June, and they
I
have
was
about wire.
she told me there was a chair. She was putting me in the home. I saw her. So we're going to time up just facing the house like somebody convinced.
All right, guys.
Everything for wire transfer. So is there any chance I could come by today? Check the original check for the settlement, wire that over.
That's what I was in college with.
Well, they are out of town.
I need to do something.
I do.
Yeah.
I need to do something.
So that's why they weren't at settlement, and that's why they wanted wire numbers so that they, know that it's there and they don't have to wait until they get back in town to deposit it. So, I will swing by this afternoon and get you everything.
What time did you say they would be back?
So I think
What time do we have to be back?
Right now.
so maybe around 6:30. Does that work with you?
And they're recording.
Okay,
They are all recorded,
okay,
so,
sounds good.
we can go.
Thank you.
Understand.
That's why I said talk to Dee, she'll show.
All right, guys, I'm going to jump back in here. Just for the sake of time, we're going to move through these remaining slides here pretty quickly. So, explaining your pricing strategy, outlining your service approach, and describe your post-sale commitment. So, I'll outline your service approach, talk about expectations, right? What's expected of you as a real estate professional helping them sell their home? What does that look like? What is the follow-up leading up to active date? What's the follow-up look like leading up to coming soon? Hey, we've got a couple things we should address moving into the coming soon status. Let's work on these things. Let's hit the coming soon running with good energy. Describing your post-sales commitment. I think this is really important too, to plant the seed for future referrals and to get future business from that sell. So for me, I always, whether it's a buyer consultation or a listing appointment, I'm in it to have these people be clients for life. I want this to be a relationship that you can lean on for as long as you need to lean on for anybody, because the goal is we want to sell their house, right? And more often than not, 50% of the time, so there's an old saying in real estate, every listing you get should equate to 1.5 units of business. So if you get 12 listings in a year, one a month, you should naturally, without even trying, close 18 homes. So half of those 12, those sellers were also buying. You were the relationship on the sell side. They ended up buying the property with you, upsizing, downsizing. Maybe it was a sign call from your listing. Maybe it was an open house lead that you captured from your listing. So keep that in mind. Listings are great. Listings are great because you get an opportunity to brand yourself, get your face on a sign, knock the community, spin off business, and get more business. So every year when I goal set, I actually goal set for how many listings I want to sell next year based off month and quarter. So, okay, January X amount, February, March, total amount for Q1, boom. Same thing for Q2, Q3, and Q4. I don't even focus on the buyer side deals because I know the buy deals are going to come from my SOI or from people that I've helped and met through listings. And then step 3 after the consultation, obtain the signed agreement and establish the next steps. Touch base on this real quick. Everybody has a different preference on this. My goal when I go on a listing appointment is I'll always get them a signed, physically wet sign of listing signature copy of the listing agreement. Get them to sign there because I know some great agents who do everything e-sign, but for me, I don't want to leave anything to chance. I think we've talked about this on Dual Career before, way back when. If I'm in a position where I can get a signed listing contract, I'm getting that signed. Like, I do not want to think that I'm getting a signed listing contract. This has been a great appointment. Everybody's on board. Chris, we're going to use you. We have another appointment tomorrow we're canceling. Awesome. I'm excited. I don't have a consumer notice, listing contract, whatever it may be with me. And I say, well, I'll just prepare it. I'll have it sent out to you via email. The minute you leave that house with no listing contract signed, hoping that they're going to open an envelope and an email and sign it, your risk for losing that listing just significantly. They may end up going on another listing appointment. They may end up, having second thoughts about it. So bring the paperwork to get signed at the appointment. There's always, special occasions where that may not be able to happen, but more often than not, bring it with you. My clicker's dead.
Go.
Go back. Bear with me 1 second. What page were we on? 25. Gosh, I gotta get through it. All right, reinforce your role as a trusted advocate. So to embody your role as a trusted advocate, you should do the following. Prepare thoroughly, be honest and realistic, flexible and consultative, dress professionally, arrive 5 to 10 minutes early, introduce your team and network. Really important you introduce your team and network on the listing side, as well as on the buy side. This is something that I recently just started getting super focused on. If we're utilizing, agent admins for transaction management services, and there's going to be someone reaching out to clients, they should know that. You should prepare them up front with who's part of your team. That way it doesn't come as a surprise later on in the transaction. From there, engage in meaningful communication. Use these communication strategies to build relationships, trust, and fans of your services. Practice, use clear, everyday language. Don't use a lot of the real estate acronyms. I know in the buyer consultation, on the back of the buyer consultation and command, there's a glossary of common used words and phrases and acronyms. That's helpful in a buyer consultation. Hey, you're going to hear lenders talk about APR and interest rates and escrow and earnest money and down payment and interest rate. What do they all mean? It's best to use clear, everyday language that someone can properly understand, then clarify it. Prioritize active listening. Summarize goals for trust. People really like when they share a goal with you that you reconfirm that goal with them. They know you heard it. They know it's on your radar. They know how important it is to them and yourself. Go beyond surface level conversations. This one took me a little bit to shake off. You stay surface level typically because the fear of getting too deep and not knowing the answer starts to kind of creep in. But the agents who crush it and the agents who do a lot of business and stay licensed for years to come are the ones that go beyond surface level conversations. Take it slowly and be thoughtful. Show, don't just tell. Establish a clear communication plan moving forward. Do you prefer to communicate via phone call, text message, email, time of the day that's better? Really important, people appreciate that. So this is a little summary before the consultation, preparing for the appointment, arriving at the home, touring the home. I'm going to break this down a little further. So preparing for the appointment. Goal. Your goal is to show the seller you're organized, respectful of time, and already invested in their success. Action plan. Assemble and deliver a pre-listing package. Everybody's pre-listing package can look different and have different finesse and personality to it. Confirm the appointment and do your homework on the property. Really important. You're going to feel so much better when you go into a listing appointment when you've spent time doing proper research and homework on it than assuming that you got it because you were referred to it and then you're going in. So this is some role play dialogue. Prepare for the appointment cover letter. So this is an intro. Thank you so much for the opportunity to connect about the sale of your home. I'm really looking forward to meeting with you and learning more about your goals for this move. From what you've shared, it sounds like you're looking for a partner who can help you. That's exactly what I focus on. My approach is personal, proactive, and built around your needs, so you always feel supported and confident from start to finish. I've included a few materials to help you get a sense of what to expect when we meet. I'm excited to sit down with you on X date at X time to walk through your goals and share the strategy I've created to get your home sold. Obviously. So that's a great way to end the conversation, setting an appointment and setting some proper expectations for that. So arriving at the home, the goal is to establish yourself as a valuable professional by greeting your potential clients and thanking them for the opportunity to serve. Action plan, greet the seller, express gratitude to the seller, build rapport with the seller, and a lot of times when you're building rapport, you're identifying their personality profile, then take charge of the agenda respectfully. So in my buyer consultations and my listing presentations, one of the first pages I review is what we're going to review today. I cover that agenda with them, and then I confirm. I've already confirmed before the appointment's set how much time I think the appointment's going to take. Excellent. I love the opportunity to help you list your home. You go back and forth on scheduling 3:30. Excellent. Our listing presentations are typically 60 to 90 minutes, depending on the amount of conversation. So when you hit that agenda again for a listing appointment or a buyer consultation, and you're talking about everything you're going to cover today before you get into everything, and you remind them that, hey, this is a 60-minute kind of conversation, that's going to help them kind of settle a little bit and not feel like the end is unknown. Sometimes people, when they meet with people for the first time, there's some anxiety there, there's some stress there, there's some big boy, big girl conversations happening, right? We're talking about credit score, finances, timelines, challenges. Sometimes when you can confirm with them what they're getting into today and how long it's going to take, I have found by doing that, you're less likely to have somebody check their watch, check their phone, dip out 40 minutes into it. Oh, I forgot to pick up the kid. It's that time already. Which people will use anything if they feel like they want to kind of get out of this appointment. Just set crystal clear expectations on what that agenda is going to look like. Okay. Tour the home. The goal is to objectively assess the home's condition during the tour to inform the listing information, marketing plan, and pricing strategy conversation. Action plan. Request a central location. Tour the home. Utilize a checklist. Gather key information. I'm never doing a listing appointment unless it's at someone's property. I'll have coffee with somebody if it's very, very early stages and they're like, hey, we're thinking about selling our home, next spring, whatever. Hey, let's get together, grab a cup of coffee, whatever. But if I've got a listing lead that's coming to me, whether I prospected for it or it was my marketing and it came to me, and they're ready to go within the near future, you're going to the property. You don't want to be meeting at a coffee shop. You don't want to be, meeting at the office for a listing, because our number one job is to assess the property and give proper guidance on what we can do. And you also find if someone is ready to sell, they're communicating with you they're ready to sell, but they don't want you in their house. They want to meet somewhere else. There's something there that needs to be figured out. There's flags. There's something. Maybe there's another person involved that we don't know about yet that they got to talk through with. Maybe the house is in such disarray that they're embarrassed. Maybe, they're presenting themselves as, hey, I'm ready to sign a listing contract today to go to market mid-May to be sold by July. But in reality, they're 6 months out. So it's an alert for me when I don't schedule a listing appointment at somebody's property. Tour the home, open-ended and close-ended questions. So there's examples of open-ended questions and close-ended questions. So you've got answer type, response type, and information provided, answer freedom, and primary use. So an open-ended question, more than a single word answer, where a closed-ended question typically prompts a single word answer. For open-ended and the response type, own knowledge and feelings, close-ended specific information. For information provided, the open-ended typically encourages deeper insights, where closed-ended typically define information. Answer freedom, free-form answer on the open-ended, limited to a set of answers on closed-ended. And primary use to invite information on open-ended and then close on closed-ended questions. So, looking at this is a little confusing. I think it's very important that when you converse with somebody, you have a mix of both, right? You don't want to go in with all just, well, I don't want to put my sellers in a position where they could just say yes or just say no and give me a closed-ended, response or question or whatever the whole time. So I'm going to go in and just make everything super open-ended and try to get more conversation. There are times where you need to use closed-ended questioning and situations to get them to agree, to get them to confirm, to get them to move forward. So use this at your field based off your experience before you do it. I feel like I'm flying too quick, but I also know, what time is it?
Is 12:34.
Okay, I can slow. Okay. Step 2, during the consultation. So we're going to assess the seller's goals and needs, which is really important. 2 different things, sometimes they overlap. Share your value proposition, review the selling process, discuss your marketing strategy, and honestly, a lot of this stuff I feel like is just recapping some stuff we've already talked about. But it's important, right?
Yeah, they're breaking down.
They're breaking it
each
down.
step.
Yeah. So we saw like the overview before, now they're breaking down each step. So assess the seller's goals and needs, share your value proposition, review the selling process, discuss your marketing strategy, explain your pricing strategy, outline your service approach, and describe your post-sale commitment. Wish my clicker worked. All right, breakdown of assessing the seller's goals and needs. Goal. Your goal is to shift that dynamic from a sales pitch to a strategic consultation. This is your discovery phase. You are there to listen, understand, and uncover the story behind the home and the seller's motivation. You build trust when people feel heard. Action plan. Uncover their motivation. Listen 90% of the time when you're in this position where you're discussing your goals. Summarize the seller's goals and needs. Take little notes as they're explaining their goals and their needs. Take little notes so you can reference back to them and confidently relay back what their goals and needs are. Use the needs analysis as the foundation for the relationship. Okay. Share your value proposition. Your goal is to build a bridge of trust by first sharing your personal commitment, excuse me, and then demonstrating that by hiring you, they are also getting the full force of your market center. Action plan. What can you do? Share your why. Why are you a licensed real estate professional doing what you do? A lot of people will connect with you based off of your why. State your value proposition, introduce your team, show market statistics and testimonials, present a broker advantage fact sheet, present my commitment to you pledge. Review the selling process. The goal is to reduce seller anxiety by providing a clear, step-by-step roadmap. You are positioning yourself as the fiduciary, I can never say that word.
Fiduciary.
Yeah, who will handle all the complexity. Action plan, present a visual roadmap. Okay, discussing your marketing strategy. The goal is to demonstrate how you will create the demand necessary to achieve their price goals using a smart, targeted, and proactive strategy. You don't need a huge budget, you need a great plan. You don't just list homes, you launch them. So explain home preparation, discuss key steps to attract buyers, share your marketing strategy. Explaining your pricing strategy. The goal is to collaboratively analyze market data and guide the seller to an informed decision. Your goal is not to tell them the price, but to lead them to it. That's kind of like that whole pricing range, price per square foot. You're kind of leading them to where you ultimately think the home is worth. This is your, this is achieved through financial transparency with the seller's net sheet as your most powerful tool. Action plan. Present the CMA. Use an absorption rate analysis. Remember the seller set the price and review the seller's net sheet line by line. So it is key to remember that the seller does set the price. Ultimately, and I have this conversation a lot when I go on listing appointments, ultimately the reason I'm here is to provide the information to you to help you make an informed decision about where you'd like to list your property at for sale. I do not choose the price for you. The seller ultimately is the one that chooses your price. I do believe you will find the most success between here and then talk through pros and cons of listing it high, listing it low, listing it in the middle, but it's the seller's right to choose where they want to price and list their home at. Now, there have been times in my career, just happened to me last spring, right around this time of the year, where it was a divorce situation, house in Hershey. He wanted $950 for it. She wanted $900. My research was $850.
Oh.
So I'm $100,000 less than him. He was the decision maker. She was my connection. She was in the middle of both of us at $900, and all the research I prepared was screaming $850, especially because the house was lived in. 3 kids, couple dogs, couple cats, like going through a divorce, like, you know, it maybe was $950 tuned up, you know, spotless. So when we're having this conversation, ultimately they get to choose where they price it at. I'm not too excited about walking away from a $900,000 listing, right? So I came up from where I probably would have recommended the pricing at $850. We met in the middle at $900. $900 was still too high. They knew it was high. I knew it was high. We went at $900. So when we signed the listing contract at $900,000, it was more to appease their desire of putting it where they wanted it to be, $900 to $950. It wasn't really in line with what other homes being sold for are offering, the comps. What I did when I signed the listing contract at $900, I added a post-dated change to listing contract addendum to the listing agreement that stated in the event that the home is not under contract with acceptable price and the seller by X date, which was like 30 days out, sellers agree to reduce listing to $850. So now I'm not going to walk away from the $900,000 listing, but I want to set some expectations up front that here's the guidance I've recommended. You still ultimately get to choose your price. I would love it if we get $900. I thought it was high based off its condition. They signed that, hey, in 30 days, if the home's not under contract at $900 or above, we're going to drop it down to $850. We had 7 showings and a busy open house the first week, sat on the market, got to week 2. By like day 16, they called me to enforce the $850 2 weeks before it was actually going to be enforced. We dropped it down to $850 under contract in 2 weeks. No inspections, close in 30 days. So that's a strategy you can use if you're kind of getting stuck in the mud with somebody on pricing, to kind of still give them the flexibility to choose their list price and ultimately choose what type of success they want, but then set yourself up to have an easier conversation when it doesn't sell. Cool. So action plan, present the CMA, use an absorption, oh, we already covered that, okay. Line by line net sheet. We're gonna jump in and do a net sheet here before we head out if we have extra time. I thought it was like 50.
It's 87, 80, 95. 97.
It says 1 of 59. Okay.
Yeah,
There's definitely a lot more slides. Yeah.
Well, this is both things, right? This is Monday and Wednesday. This package.
No, I think this is Wednesday's packet. I think we have a whole separate packet for
Yeah,
Wednesday.
you get a packet each day,
Gotcha. Okay.
each class, yep.
100 pages a
That's what you're
day.
supposed to do, there should be homework at the end, this one that we have.
All right, guys, bear with me. Trying to get that.
How about that? Yeah. Right forward.
Sorry, guys, bear with me.
We don't
Well,
have
we're supposed to be role playing.
All right, where do we leave off there?
We're on 65.
Explain your pricing strategy. Okay, pricing topics, current market positioning, which is kind of talking about those actives, days on market as a function of price, and preparation and price. So explaining your pricing strategy, CMA. So here's kind of a chart that they use to summarize some sold and active comps that are currently relative to the listing that we're on. visually speaking, yours is probably gonna look different than this chart. But this is a breakdown of like what you're looking for. So status, is it sold, is it an active one that we're competing against, the address, beds, baths, square footage, sale price, days on market, notes. So utilize whatever tools you guys can utilize to help you have a better, more sound, listing presentation. A lot of this stuff for me is on result statistics, like when you go to pull comps and save them into a cart, print like result stats, and it shows like the breakdown of averages of everything. I use that one a lot on the MLS. You guys know what I'm talking about?
No, but I find that the CMAs on there, I still can't do them.
Still tricky.
Yeah, so I gotta work on that, but I use the RPR. It's so much easier, but it's not as,
Yeah, gotcha.
yeah, you don't have so many.
So explaining your pricing strategy, this is an example conversation based on the example CMA. I hope Zoom can hear me.
You can talk to them.
Yeah, my clicker's dead, so I gotta keep going back.
Here, you want me to sit over there and push the button?
Do you mind?
No.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
No.
Thank you. I should have thought of that earlier.
I was on that last week and.
I know how to
he
push a
never
button.
even acknowledged us.
Now?
Man,
Gotcha.
we couldn't even talk because it was muted
Mm.
until a certain point.
Gotcha.
They had like 3 people call in.
That was you.
Andrea. All right, so example conversation based on the example CMA. Based on the data, we can see a clear picture of the market. The home on Oak Avenue shows us that even with a less desirable location, the value is strong at $440. The home on Maple Drive shows the maximum potential for a home with high-end updates, selling for $465. Finally, our current competition on Pine Circle has been sitting on the market, telling us that buyers feel it is overpriced. This information suggests that the right price for your home is in the $450 to $460 range. This positions us above the home with the bad location, but competitively below the fully renovated home, which will attract the most serious buyers. So that's a great way to have that summary conversation. And this is a perfect example of why you want to bring active comps with you when you're discussing pricing strategies.
What is this on the screen? What do you want me to do?
Just do don't allow, I'm not sure.
Don't change. Okay. You ready to go on?
Cool. Next page. You might have to hit the little arrow at the bottom. It's been,
Your clicker stop.
Got it.
yeah. It died earlier too. Robin quickly fixed it, but I don't have to grab Robin every time it dies. All right, so explain your pricing strategy. This is an example of a seller's net proceeds sheet. So more often than not, you guys will be using the Bright MLS to run an estimated net proceeds sheet for a seller. When you do a public record search for a property address for a listing that you're about to go on, you're going to see the property address. You're going to see, information about the property, tax ID, beds, baths, footage, ownership. There are two little icons. There's a buyer money sign and a seller money sign. When you hit the seller money sign, it's going to generate an estimated net proceeds sheet on the MLS, which is essentially the same thing as this. This is just a different visual graphic. So what are the big expenses when it comes time to selling your home? More often than not, the biggest expense for a property owner is their payoff. So if they have a mortgage balance, that's typically the largest expense. So there's the mortgage payoff. Potential real estate fee. So if you have not already discussed commission at this point, then this might spur some conversations about commission structure. Obviously, commission is not recommended, not set in stone, not standard. Everything's negotiable. You guys will determine what you charge your sellers for the services that you provide. But outside of a payoff, the commission is typically the second biggest expense. Owner's title insurance policy. So typically, title insurance is obtained by a buyer through a real estate transaction, and they break it into two portions: the lender's interest and the owner's interest. I don't know if they get owner title insurance policy back at closing. I don't think so. Never seen that before. Usually title insurance is something paid by the buyer when they go to buy a home. Escrow attorney, closing fees, prorated property taxes, other HOA transfers, etc. Tax certifications is one that's not on there. Flood certification, which is required by some counties. Broker transaction fee goes into real estate fee. So we'll do an example of this later here. I've got enough time. Go ahead to the next page.
I have a quick question
Yeah.
about this. Is there a good way to try to calculate like how much equity they would have in their home before you go to, like how does one do that? Is there like a
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you don't know if they have a payoff or if they have any home equity line of credits tied to it, it's going to be really hard. So I've done it two ways. I've done an estimated equity view at it without knowing that information and figuring that out at the listing appointment, like, oh, you owe 220. Well, I was expecting you at about 300 in net pre-payoff, so it looks like you have about $80,000 in net proceeds. You can also use, do you guys use Remine at all? It's a system tool through Bright MLS. Okay, we'll have to talk about Remine one day. I think you have to pay for it, but for some reason I still have access to it, so I still use it a lot. But maybe I'm paying for it on the card I don't know about.
Yeah.
But you could do a public record search on homes, and it will tell you like name, phone number, email, cell score, equity, what their payoffs are. So I use that tool, Jade, a lot. Remine through the MLS.
Okay.
That used to be free to all MLS subscribers when I got licensed, and it still is accessible to my account. So still using it. Okay, explain your pricing strategy. Okay, example conversation based on the example CMA. As you can see, the list price is just one number. This document, the seller's net sheet, gives us a much clearer picture. Based on a sale price of $450 after paying off the mortgage and all the estimated closing costs of selling, you can expect to walk away with approximately $211,500. My entire job is to protect and maximize this final number for you. It's a great way to say it. I didn't see transfer tax on that net sheet.
I didn't either.
Yeah, but that's another big one. Cool, next slide. Keep going, yep. So outline your service approach. Goal to proactively manage seller expectations and demonstrate your value as a dedicated.
Fiduciary.
Thank you.
Well-
Your communication plan is a key part of your service that differentiates you from agents who disappear after getting the signature. Action plan. Establish a communication plan. Explain how you manage showings, share a transaction timeline, and reinforce your role as their advocate. So describe your post-sale care. So the goal was to provide a professional branded closing that reinforces your identity and makes it easy for them to contact you with any follow-up questions. Action plan is to avoid an abrupt ending. That's always awkward on a listing appointment, especially if you're trying to get the listing contract signed and you're struggling to get it signed and then it just like ends. It's like there's no like feel to it. Establish yourself as their real estate advisor for life. Show client appreciation for life. And a lot of times when I'm going through this stuff, like be honored by referrals, be sure the page and or slide has all the contact information, prepare a leave behind folder. So like my thought process as an agent who's sold a lot of listings and been through it, I don't want the abrupt ending, so I always try to smooth it over and gain their business and earn their trust. Or at the very minimum, if I've not gotten a contract signed, I always set proper expectations for when I'm going to be following up to see if I can help answer any other questions and potentially get me in a position to sign it. Establish yourself as a real estate advisor for life. I always hit on this too. You know, my commitment to you is for this to be a relationship moving forward past this transaction. I'd love to be a resource for you for any, real estate needs that you may have, anybody that you know, whatever it may be. Show client appreciation for life. Depending on the client appreciation profile and how well I'm vibing with them, I might get into like, part of my past client appreciation, I do past client appreciation parties and events and would love to have you there, stuff like that. Okay, next slide. So obtain the signed agreement. The goal is to make it easy for your client to say yes. This isn't a high pressure tactic. It's the logical conclusion to a successful consultation. Asking for the signature should feel like the natural next step. Summarize your value, ask for the signature, review the paperwork, use digital signing, offer an easy exit guarantee. Okay. Establish next steps. The goal is to show the seller they may have the right choice in signing with you. A professional of immediate organized action. Action plan, provide a next step checklist, schedule the next key action, confirm your follow-up, end on a personal note. So flow of the appointment.
Same slide.
Yep, same slide. So here's a suggested routine calendar for your mornings and afternoons, Monday through Friday. So you're going to start with Monday, the MRA energy plan. So that's spiritual, physical, emotional, mental, business, just getting yourself prepared and ready to go to accomplish everything you're looking to achieve in that day. Another book recommendation for you guys is The Miracle Morning. If there's anybody in the room that struggles with getting themselves up, getting going, finding the energy to conquer their day in the morning, The Miracle Morning, it's by Hal Elrod, I believe. Elrod?
That's right.
Great read about getting your day started the right way. So when you walk out the door, you've got that excitement, that energy to conquer what you're looking to do. So in the morning, there's some role playing that can occur, presentation practice, lead generation. The view is always generate in the morning, service your business in the afternoon. So grow your business in the morning, start having those conversations, those 10 contacts 5 days a week for 6 months. Have some time carved out in your morning to prospect and to talk with new leads, so you can then service your business in the afternoon. And that kind of goes across, the week there with some different tagging and database
Real
management
quick
stuff
question.
there. Yep.
Are you doing cold calls when you're reaching out? Are you reaching out to database?
That's a great question.
Yeah, so these guys, I think, need an idea of where to start and where to focus.
Yeah. So there's so many thoughts with that. I'm a big believer in, so there's a lot of different ways to get business, right? You've got buyers and you've got sellers. And there's so many different pillars of business, is what I call them, for buyers and for sellers. So you got buyers over here, you've got sellers over here. And buyers, I could do open houses. It could be SOI leads. It could be sign calls. It could be
Internet leads.
internet leads. There we go. Social media, yeah.
There are people in this room that are excellent at social media and have gotten results from it.
Nice. Sellers, you've got SOI, FISBOs, expired listings, cancels. You've got, what are some other ways to get? Foreclosures. Show sale list. You've got door knocking. So these are just examples of pillars of business to get buyers and to get sellers. When you're a newly licensed real estate professional, there may be some on there that you think, and this isn't all of them, there's a lot more for each one, but this is just an example. There may be some on here that you initially have some excitement about, right? Man, I think I would really enjoy and be good at doing open houses. So that's going to be my focus with buyers, along with my SOI. And you know what? I know FISBOs are challenging, but I'd really have an opportunity to meet with people who are thinking about selling their home and break down some different options for them. And I really want to go crazy on door knocking. So how I did it, and everybody's different, to answer Steph's question, what days do you prospect for which type of business? You can fall into this trap where there's realistically, to generate buyer business, there's probably like 12 different ways you can generate buyer business. And on the listing side, I would say it's probably close, 10, 12. So all of a sudden, you've got 22 different ways you can generate business in real estate, right? I have found that if you stay too long living in 22 different ways to get business for yourself, you're going to be okay at all of it and not great at any of it. But I think it's really important as a newly licensed real estate agent to explore the different options that are out there for 22 different ways to get business and find out what you love doing, what you're great at doing, and what you want to continue to do moving. For me, it's SOI and past client referrals on both the buy and sell side. It's for sale by owners on the sell side. It's expired listings on the sell side. That's it. Every once in a while, if I'm like really slow, I'll do an open house. Or if my sellers insist that I'm the one to host the house open, I'll host my own open houses. But what I have found is,
I'm sorry, can you read your list on B again?
yeah, B I have for buyers, you can get buyers through open house opportunities, you can get buyers from sphere of influence, you can be a listing agent and get a sign call on your listing, and that can end up being a buyer. Internet leads, social media, just examples of buyer leads. But if you live in the 22 different ways to get business all the time, I have found that it's really hard to be great at all 22. So once I shifted, it wasn't until about year 3, my first 2 years in the business, I was doing about 12 to 16 units a year, trying everything. I was a new agent, I needed sales, I was ready to do whatever it took, I'll take business from whatever source. Year 3, I took that list of 22 or whatever it ends up being and focused on 5, probably 4, 2 on each side, and did those 5 or 4 at a high level. And then my business went from 14, 15, 16 units to 30, 36 units because I was doing the things I like doing at a much better rate with more professionalism. So to answer Steph's question, what days do I do this? Well, now I know that I have SOI and past client nurturing I need to accomplish. I know I like to call FSBOs and list them. I know I like to call expireds and list them. So now my week, if I've got prospecting 5 days a week, I have to identify in those prospecting time blocks how often I want to do each pillar. So for me, for sale by owners, I try to reach out to for sale by owners twice a week. And it's usually on Mondays at the start of the week when people are back into the flow of the work week and they're ready to take a phone call. Don't like calling FSBOs on the weekend if I don't have to. And it's usually Thursday. So if I don't get them all on Monday, I'm doing the rest on Thursday, or if I do get them all on Monday and I had some great conversations, Thursday is now my follow-up with the people I had great conversation with, or people that I did not get a hold of. Monday gives me time throughout the week to schedule appointments to avoid me working on the weekend, if I can. So that's why my heavy day for FSBOs and expireds are on Mondays, because I can get them, I can converse with them, I can get them nurtured up for a few days if I need to a point where I can set an appointment for a Thursday or Friday and enjoy my weekend with my family. Thursdays, I still hit them in the morning, because then on a Thursday, if I'm not busy Thursday evening or Thursday late afternoon, and we're having a great conversation with a FSBO, I can come today between 3 and 5, or I can come tomorrow between 10 and 3. Which one works better for you? Now my weekend's still protected. So I do FSBO prospecting twice a week. I do expired prospecting once a week on Mondays. And then I do SOI database, past client referral stuff about twice a week. So I just space it out, and I think it's best to space it out, because if you do something that's worked well for me too is make one day a focus on one pillar of business. My head is all in on calling FSBOs today, no distractions. Hey, if the phone rings and it's a past client refer me business and they leave a voicemail, text message, and I follow it up later, great. But I don't want to be bouncing from calling FSBOs to chasing open house leads to doing research on expireds to going through my contact list on my phone to find call. Because what ends up happening is you just spend so much time bouncing around and doing research that you don't actually make calls. But if you have your week set up where you know each day, so if you spend 2 hours a day, 5 days a week prospecting, just rotate them. So Monday's FSBO day. So I'm going to be, by the weekend, I've got a list of FSBOs ready to go to call on Monday. Tuesday's SOI. Wednesday's, past client, whatever it may be. Did I answer your question?
Yep.
Cool. Perfect. All right, next slide. All right, close review. We covered how to hold a robust seller listing appointment. You have the buyer listing presentation to review. We'll start practicing the daily page here. So learning application, review the buyer listing presentation. Time block your daily presentation practice. Practice your buyer and seller presentations. Continue reaching out to the people who know, like, and trust you until you had at least 10 real estate conversations. Be ready to share your progress report at the beginning of our next session, and then ahas from today. So is there any buyer stuff in your take-home packets? Or those little booklets? That was mainly seller stuff.
Yeah.
There is some buyer stuff?
No, I only saw sellers.
Okay, so these are buyer ones. Put these out ahead of time. Is that what we're doing?
No, we're not going to give them out ahead of time.
Okay, we'll just review buyers then on Wednesday. So we got a little time here. I know I kind of went through a lot today. What questions can I help answer? I'm happy to spend a little time after class breaking anything specific down for you.
I thought it was good. It gives me a lot more like questions more. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's good for me to see breakdown, but now I need to go teach myself confidence and the knowledge through every breakdown.
And that comes with
Practice, yeah.
and repetition.
So I think like me trying to ask a random question about it, you know what I mean? I think it was a good breakdown.
Good, thank you.
I just kind of need to take a step back.
Yep. Respect that, appreciate that feedback. Yep. Katie, sorry.
I have a listing presentation I'd like to go over with you once
Okay.
you're done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hey, Chris,
Yes.
are you able to save me a packet? I'm traveling back from Ohio, so I couldn't be in class. This was already scheduled, but I did listen. If you could save me a packet for Wednesday, I'll be in class.
Yeah, is that Letitia?
Yes.
Hi, Letitia. Yep, I can do that. I'll throw it in your mailbox folder for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Drive safe. I gotta jump
Thank
on a call
you.
real quick. I'm sorry. Cool. You guys good?
Yep.
We'll recap a little bit to start next class and then jump into it on Wednesday.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Several times.
Yep. Appreciate it.
Thank you.